Okay, take a deep breath. Feel that? The air moving in and out, the slight coolness on the inhale, the warmth on the exhale, the rising and falling of your chest, the buzzing, humming, luminous feeling of being here, right now, reading this. That is what we're talking about today. That is consciousness, your private, personal inner movie. But here's a question that probably sneaks into your head at 3 in the morning when you can't sleep. Where did this come from? I don't mean your life story or your memories. I mean that raw feeling of being alive. The taste of coffee, the sting of a paper cut, the heaviness of grief, the lightness of joy. To switch gears, was there a day or a moment in the long, brutal history of life on this planet when the lights suddenly switched on? And if so, who or what was the first being to ever feel anything? And what does that ancient spark have to do with the stress you feel about your bills, the love you feel for another, or the quiet hope you carry for tomorrow? The uninvited guest in the machine. Let's start with a weird fact. Science is stunningly good at explaining the machinery of you. It can trace the electrical zap of a thought through the jungle of your brain. It can map the hormones that flood your body when you're scared. It can explain evolution, how simple things become complex things over millions of years. But when it comes to explaining why all that machinery has a feeling attached to it, science gets quiet. This is what philosopher David Chalmers called the hard problem of consciousness. And it's called hard for a reason. It's not like a hard math problem. It's a giant, what on earth is going on kind of problem. Think of it this way. We could, in theory, build an AI robot that acts exactly like a human. It says, ouch, when you pinch it and it runs from danger. It even says it loves sunsets. But the hard problem asks, would there be anyone home inside the robot? Would it actually feel the pain, the fear, the beauty, or would it just be a brilliant but empty simulation? This gap between the physical brain and the subjective experience is what we're trying to bridge. And the journey to find the origin of consciousness is really a detective story. We're looking for clues in fossils, in animals, in babies, and in the very structure of our own minds. Clue 1. The whisper in a single cell. Our first clue takes us way, way back. Before dinosaurs, before trees, before anything you could see without a microscope. Some philosophers suggest the spark might have been there from the very beginning. Not a bright flame of self-awareness, but a faint whisper of sentience. Imagine the very first single-celled organism floating in a prehistoric sea, or a primordial soup as some call it. It doesn't have eyes or a brain, but it can sense its world. It can tell if the water around it is toxic or nourishing, and it can respond. It can move toward food and away from poison. Now, is that just a chemical automatic pilot? Or is there, in that most basic act of self-preservation, a tiny, primitive form of feeling? Is there a raw experience of good for me versus bad for me? It's a wild idea. It suggests that the capacity for experience isn't something special that arrived late. It's woven into the very fabric of being alive. That the loneliness you might feel or the comfort of a warm blanket are echoes of a feeling that started in a creature with no nerves at all. It means you are connected, in the most fundamental way, to every living thing on the planet. You share the same ancient basic contract of feeling your way through existence. Clue 2, the Cambrian pain. Fast forward to the Cambrian explosion about 530 million years ago. This period was an absolute revolution in evolution. In this era, life went from simple, soft-bodied creatures to animals sporting hard shells, complex eyes, and, crucially, much more sophisticated nervous systems. This is a game changer. Before this time period, life was mostly passive, drifting along. Now you have predators and prey. You have animals that need to make choices. Do I fight this thing or run? Is that shadow a mate or a monster? To survive in this new, busy, dangerous world, you need more than just reflexes. You need a way to pull all your senses together into one picture of the world to guide your actions. This is where many scientists place a more recognizable form of consciousness, sentience, the capacity for pain and pleasure, not just reacting but experiencing. Why? Because pain is the ultimate teacher. A simple organism might recoil from damage, but a sentient animal remembers the pain. It learns to fear the tooth or claw that caused it. It anticipates. Creatures needed behavioral flexibility. They had to coordinate complex actions, to hunt, to avoid new predators, and maybe even to coordinate within groups. Pleasure works the same way, guiding toward what's good. This behavioral flexibility, learning from what you feel, was a massive survival advantage. That nagging anxiety you feel about a work deadline. Its deepest root might be this ancient Cambrian innovation, which was the ability to feel a negative state and let it change your future behaviour. Clue 3, the mammalian movie theatre. Our next stop is the world of early mammals, such as Morganucodon, shrew-like creatures, around 200 million years ago. These are our direct ancestors, and they brought a new piece of hardware to the party, the neocortex. Think of the previous versions of consciousness as a simple spotlight, highlighting immediate sensations like pain or hunger. The neocortex built a movie theatre around that spotlight. This wrinkly layer of brain allowed for a global, integrated experience. It wasn't just, I have pain in leg, it was, I am a small, furry creature hiding under a fern with a throbbing leg, while the smell of damp earth mixes with the distant roar of a predator and I feel a desperate need to be perfectly still. The creature could now integrate all its senses into a unified, moment-by-moment experience, an inner world to guide its behaviour. This is the birth of the rich, inner life we now recognise. The ability to feel not just isolated sensations, but a scene you are living inside of. This is huge for your life today. That ability to weave your sensations, memories, and emotions into a single, ongoing story is what creates your sense of self. It's why you don't just experience hunger, you experience, I am hungry, and I remember I have leftovers, and I'm annoyed I have to get up. The stress of your to-do list, the pleasure of planning a vacation, it all happens in this mammalian movie theatre of the mind. The continuum, differences in degree, not kind. The science of consciousness tells us one clear thing. Consciousness is not an on-off switch. It's a massive, beautiful and complex spectrum. The old idea that humans were the only conscious beings has been thoroughly debunked. The differences between animal and human consciousness are likely ones of degree, not kind. The Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness, 2012, solidified this shift. It states that mammals, birds, and even cephalopods, like the wildly intelligent octopus, possess the neural structures and cognitive abilities to experience consciousness, including subjective feelings. Their movie might be different. A bat's world is built from sonar. A dog's world is a universe of smell. Their eye might be simpler, less wrapped up in past regrets and future worries. But the lights in some form are very likely on. An octopus with its 9 brains and wildly alien intelligence is now widely viewed as having an inner life. 2022 paper in PubMed Central. We now acknowledge that animal consciousness varies along dimensions like e-richness, the complexity and emotional texture of subjective experience, the difference between a simple discomfort and the complex feeling of love, and temporality, the ability to use episodic memory and anticipate future scenarios. A squirrel knows it's hungry now, but a human can worry about a job interview leading to more food next week. The animal in the mirror. So we've followed the trail from cells to mammals, but what about the me part? The part that knows it's you watching the movie, not just being the movie? That's self-awareness, and it's a later layer on top of sentience. In humans, this shows up famously with the mirror test. A baby doesn't recognize itself in a mirror until it's about 18 to 24 months old. Around that same time, a brain region called the anterior cingulate cortex is rapidly growing. This is the seat of I. But here's the fascinating part. Many thinkers believe this I wasn't built in solitude. It was built through interaction. We are deeply social creatures. Our sense of self is polished, for better or worse, by seeing ourselves reflected in the eyes of others. You learn who you are by imagining what others think of you. This is where complex emotions are born. Animals clearly feel basic fear and joy, but do they feel guilt, pride, shame, empathy? These emotions require a self that can measure itself against a standard, a rule, or another's feelings. That nagging feeling after you've said something hurtful, that's your self-aware consciousness, shaped by many social interactions doing its work. Why your ancient spark matters. So when did consciousness begin? The unsatisfying but honest answer is we don't know the exact moment. It seems to be a story of layering, not a single on-off switch. It might have started as the faint hum in a single cell became a sharper signal of pain and pleasure in ancient seas. And over much time, this blossomed into a full-colour world inside the minds of mammals. Then eventually, in us, became a story that knows it's a story. But why should you care about this deep detective story? Because this isn't just about biology, it's about your psychology, right now, today. First, it tells you that your feelings are not accidents. They are ancient, honed tools. Your anxiety isn't just a flaw. It's a millions-year-old alarm system designed to protect you. Your craving for connection isn't just sentimental. It's how the self is built and sustained. When you feel a deep love for someone, you are tapping into emotional circuits older than the mountains. Second, it dissolves the illusion of separation. That sense of being a lonely self inside a bag of skin is the latest product of this long evolution. But beneath it, you are sentient in the same way a dog seeking comfort is sentient, in the same way a bird feeling the thrill of flight is sentient. You share the fundamental condition of feeling what it is like to be. This can foster a profound sense of kinship, a true empathy. not just for people, but for all living things that experience their own version of this mystery. And finally, it makes the fact of your own consciousness utterly astounding. In a universe of dead rocks and silent stars on a small planet, through a chain of events stretching back to the first cell, the cosmos somehow engineered a way to experience itself. You are a part of that. The stress, the joy, the boredom, the love. It's all part of this rare and shimmering phenomenon. You are not just a biological machine, you are the universe, for a little while, awake and feeling its own existence. So the next time you're stuck in traffic or feeling overwhelmed or caught in a moment of pure happiness, remember the journey. Remember the first cell that felt its way toward life. Remember the first fish that felt pain and learned. Remember the first mammal that felt the world as a coherent place. You are the current, temporary custodian of a flame that is billions of years old, and that changes everything.